Howdy, I'm Chandler O'Quinn, and I'm currently standing underneath the only life-size statue of Sam Houston. I know some scholars may say he was 6'2", some people say he was 6'6", but they're both wrong. He was 66 feet tall. That's why he was able to win at San Jacinto. He could just pick up his enemies and flick them off into the distance. Welcome to Chandler's Travels. I'm here in Huntsville, Texas, taking a look at the important spots that played a role in Sam Houston's later life. Hope you'll enjoy it. I'm here at the Sam Houston Memorial Museum and Republic of Texas Presidential Library in Huntsville, Texas. This is all built on the land where the Woodland home, so the home that Sam Houston technically resided during his time as senator in the 1840s and 50s, still stands to this day, and the rest of the museum was built upon that land. Sam Houston, upon leaving the governorship, with all of the mess and chaos of secession and Texas leaving the Union over the outcome of the 1860 election, and Houston being staunchly against leaving the Union, and someone who had fought so hard to make sure that Texas had gotten into the Union and seeing it as its best interest, someone who was not a fan of people who just rushed into things for passionate reasons, but someone who tried his best to look at things soberly, at least in this later part of his life. After all of that mess, he wanted to come back home to Huntsville. He doesn't come here immediately. Sometimes he's visiting with the in-laws in Independence. Sometimes he is closer to Galveston. But by 1862, he decides to come back to Huntsville, bring the family to Huntsville. But the Woodland home is not available. So he rents a Steamboat House, which has now been brought to this property. It's called the Steamboat House because, well, that's the only thing that it sort of resembles. It is a steamboat, maybe some sort of strange castle, I suppose. Sam Houston was ready to come back home to Huntsville, and did so in the fall of 1862. Even before coming to the Steamboat House, Sam Houston had had a few health scares. He was 69 years old. He still carried with him lead from 2 different wars. He had wounds that were seeping still, and he was showing his age. And there was even a point earlier in 1862 where it seemed like it was the end. They called one of the doctors in, I believe it was Ashbel Smith, to take a look at him, and he seemed to be fading. He even gathered everyone together in the house, the whole family, Margaret, his wife, everyone, the children that were around. His son was in the Confederate Army, was on his way to serve at Shiloh and actually get wounded there. But who was around, he gathered together in his home and started to make the arrangements for what seemed to be inevitable. In the next few days, he would be leaving this earth. But then, about a day later, he recovered, almost back to normal. And when Ashbel Smith or one of the other doctors came back to see him, Sam Houston looked at him and said, "Tell my enemies I am not dead yet." That's Sam Houston right there. That is everything that we would want him to be. as with all these stories, who knows if any of it is actually true or if over the years they've been embellished, but that's who we want Sam Houston to be. That even in this point where so many Texans are put up with him for sticking to his convictions as he always did, he is still carrying with him that fire and that passion and that wit that he always did. The original location of the Steamboat House was about a mile in that direction. But Margaret wasn't necessarily very enthusiastic about Sam Houston's Native American friends, the Alabama Coshada, who would come and visit him. So he would walk a mile away back to the grounds of the Woodland home and the spring that bubbled up here. And he would sit among the spring and with his friends and talk in the old language. For him, that would be Cherokee. And they would share stories. But also, the Alabama Coshada were concerned about their young men who were being drafted into the Confederate Army and asked Sam Houston to use his influence to try and stop this, which he did and did successfully. And the Alabama Coshada, were very grateful to him for doing this. But in the last weeks of his life, Sam Houston would come back to this property, the old Woodland home, sit amongst the spring and visit with his Alabama Coshada friends, smoke tobacco, and I believe reminisce about his younger life, all those many years ago, living on an island with the Cherokee. Now, as he knew what was near the end of his life, must have meant something very special to him. And to this day, people still come to the what is affectionately known as the Duck Pond to reminisce, to share stories, to make new memories. So it's very nice that that legacy can continue to the present day.
If you're visiting Huntsville and looking for a neat place to grab a bite and some coffee, you might try the Cat Cafe. It is operated out of the former Huntsville jail and leans into the weirdness you might expect from a hooskow turned cafe. It doubles as an art gallery with some real gothic vibes. They even offer ghost tours. There's definitely a hippy-dippy, bohemian chic aspect to the service and the menu. Like, if the hustle and bustle of Huntsville got you tensed up, man, they can brew up some CBD teas to mellow you out. What makes this a must-stop, though, on a Houston-themed tour of Huntsville, is that they serve Margaret Houston's white cake. They follow her exact recipe, and it was truly a delight. If you are in the area, I'd highly recommend you check them out.
This is the front porch of the Steamboat House. Here, Sam Houston, in his last remaining weeks, was known to sit out here and greet the people as they walked by. The Steamboat House, where it originally was very trafficked, as it was right in between the cemetery and Huntsville Prison, where he would actually visit both many times in his last few weeks. Going to the prison because there were Union soldiers that were held there after being captured when Jeb Magruder retook Galveston. And he went to the prison there and was absolutely livid with the way that they were being treated and went straight to the warden and made sure that they were taken care of better than they were. This meant something special to Houston because it was the Union generosity that saved his own son, who may have bled out on the fields of Shiloh, just as he may have almost done at Horseshoe Bend. So the fact that the Union soldiers took care of his own son meant that he was willing and wanted to make sure that these Union prisoners were taken care of humanely. But being on the front porch on many an afternoon and evening, people just couldn't help themselves, even if they were angry with him about his politics. The charisma that was there was still there, and he would greet people as they walked by. Sam Houston, a man after my own heart, um, had all of these wild hats and outfits. His favorite at this time was a blue velvet smoking cap that was trimmed with a gold trim. Very bold, very flashy. I believe that Sam Houston and Elvis both would have agreed that clothes can say something about a man that sometimes words can't. You look at pictures, you hear descriptions of the outfits that he wore. I will tell you that if I had the chance to bring Sam Houston back to or to the present day, sure, plenty of people would want to have a drink with him. Me, I'd want to go to the thrift store with him and pick out what kind of wild outfits and ties that we could match each other with. I just think that that would be a whole lot of fun. So this front porch area was so significant in this last remaining days and weeks of Sam Houston's life. It is right here in October of 1862 that he emancipated the slaves that were his. Um, as the story is told to us by Jeff Hamilton, um, upon hearing the news of the Emancipation Proclamation, he gathered the slaves and he stood right here and read them the Emancipation Proclamation and said that they were free, that although this is still the Confederacy, he was not going to wait for the Confederacy to tell him what he could do. And so he freed them. And as the story goes, Eliza, who was had been with the family since she was a child back in Alabama, was the cook for the Houston family. And the story is that she was very distraught, not wanting to leave the Houstons. Did this mean emancipation mean that the slaves would be taken away from the Houston family? And as the story goes, Houston said that that is not the case, that you do not have to leave us, but I will begin to pay you now, and you will be paid servants and hands for the family. And they all pretty much stayed with him. The notable exception being before the proclamation was actually read by Houston, Tom Blue had left. Tom Blue was another one of the slaves that the Houston family had. In the time period, they would say that he was high yellow. He was someone who could pass for being white. And so he escaped and took one of the younger slaves with him, saying that they were going to make it together, and they headed south towards Mexico. But once they got to Laredo, Tom Blue sold the younger slave and went off into Mexico and got $800 for him, and was not seen again. But besides that story, most of those stayed with the family well into after the Civil War had ended. During these last few weeks, Sam Houston continuously made trips down to Houston and Galveston and even to a health spa near Beaumont. On one of these trips, to Houston, he was stopped as he was going into Houston, and it was a Confederate sentry who told him that Houston, the town that was named after him, was under martial law, and that he would have to, if he did not have papers to get inside of Houston, he would have to turn around and leave. Sam Houston stepped off from the carriage, went right up to this wisp of a Confederate sentry, and said, "You go to San Jacinto, and you will see why I can travel Texas freely." After that, the Confederate sentry let Houston on his way into the town. In the spring of 1863, the Alabama Coshada returned to Huntsville, and Sam, not being able to make it the mile back to the Woodland home, they came to him at the Steamboat House. They sat on the steps here and sang the songs that Houston remembered from his life living amongst the Cherokee. He and his wife sat at the top of the steps, holding each other's hand as Houston reminisced about his youth and all the things that he had done, and probably worried about the future and what it all meant, if these were the circumstances that they now found themselves in. But for the most part, he was able not to think about the present and speak in the Cherokee language. And after several songs and chants and beating of drums, the Alabama Coshada thanked General Houston once again for the work that he had put into and the influence that he had used to get the Alabama Coshada braves not to have to fight for the Confederacy. And then they left, both parties expecting that this would be the last time that they would meet in this world. News of Sam Houston's ill health was not a secret. The people around Huntsville knew of his progressing illness, and newspaper reporters started to gather around the Steamboat House, not to reminisce about old times, but to be the first one to get the news General Houston had passed away. They would nearly stalk this front door, and General Houston knew that they were there. And one day, as the story goes, he sent Jeff Hamilton out to greet these two reporters and said that the general wants to speak with you. And the reporters, thinking that they're going to get a scoop, they're going to get his final words, eagerly rush in to the house. Houston, lying on the bed, he grabs one of the reporters and puts him on to his right side. He takes another one of the reporters and puts him on his left side. And he leans back and he says, "I have always wanted to die as Christ did, between two thieves." And once the reporters knew that that was what was happening, that he was once again getting another one in on these reporters, he dismissed the reporters and they left. General Houston's health continued to decline. He had pneumonia, and had really had pneumonia for months, ever since probably January or February, this now being around June and July. The doctors would come in and they prescribed him brandy to try and help with the effects of the pneumonia. And at an earlier point in his life, he may have relished the opportunity to have the medicinal brandy. But at this point, he said, "I've been a teetotaler for too long, and I do not intend to stop now. He had to stay in the room that was underneath the stairs. Most of the other family members were living upstairs, but he couldn't make it up those stairs. He could be seen stumbling throughout the night, and his health just continued to decline. Towards the end, his wounds continuously seeping, Joshua, Jeff tending to those wounds up until his very last moments. The whole family was able, except for Sam Houston Jr., was able to come to the house because they knew this time it was really going to happen. He was going to pass away. So they all gathered and took care of him and kept vigil over him. And at points, Houston would wake up from his stupor and talk to his wife, Margaret, and to Jeff, and say, "You do not need to be here for this. You need to go and have some rest." And they declined. They wanted to be there for him. And then on July 26th, in the afternoon, he just kept going in and out of lucidity and just sweating and feverish. And Margaret was reading the Bible to him and holding his hand. And Houston said to her, "Texas, Margaret, Texas." And then he passed away. July 26, 1863.
The Steamboat House is closed to the public 363 days a year. The Sam Houston Memorial Museum only opens up the house during their annual Sam Houston Day Festival in April and on July 26th, the anniversary of Houston's passing. Thanks to my day job, I have made a lot of good friends at the museum and was asked to help out during their funeral program. The following is a summary of Sam Houston's funeral service, as it was delivered in the parlor in 1863. So, the service would have begun as a Masonic ceremony. So the Freemasons from the local lodge would have come and placed a white apron on the casket and an evergreen branch, and then read over certain important things to them. Then the Reverend John Cochran came, and he would have read some passages from the Bible, and then Margaret had written a special poem for the occasion. And the last stanza of that poem reads, "And now may peace within thy breast from him descend and there remain. Each night mayst thou sweetly rest and feel thou hast not lived in vain." And after that, Judge Banton came and delivered the eulogy. And as part of that eulogy, he said, "Profound, far-seeing, and comprehensive in statesmanship, bold, daring, glorious in war. A dear lover of peace with wonderful capacity to enjoy private life and the family circle. He combined all the elements necessary to constitute him a truly great man. I was with General Houston in his last illness and in his last moments on earth. He was Sam Houston in life and was emphatically and characteristically Sam Houston in death. The same reverence-inspiring form, the same piercing eye, the same gigantic mind. There is something majestic, magnificent, and yet instructive and beautiful in such a life and death. And now that the war faction of party is over with him, and the tongue of envy is hushed, all can see and acknowledge his great worth and hear his immortal memory. We might say of Texas that she was his handiwork. And I doubt not that as long as there are those that love Texas, and as long as her glorious history is read, the name of Houston will be honored and revered.
Sam Houston passed away on July 26, 1863. That afternoon, evening, and into the next morning, the Union prisoners, including the ship's carpenter that were held as prisoners at the Huntsville prison, worked into the night to create a coffin for the former general, president, senator, governor. They then brought the coffin and Houston's body up to the top of the Steamboat House, and they had a ceremony here. Margaret wrote a special poem for Sam Houston, her beloved husband, and the Presbyterian minister presided over the actual service. It was a very rainy day, and whether it was because of that or Sam Houston's recent unpopularity due to his stance against the Confederacy, there were not a lot of people who attended. The casket was then taken out and walked the block or so to the Oakwood Cemetery. Right before he had passed away, he asked specifically that he be buried near his old friend, Henderson Yoakum. From that point on, Margaret, who didn't really want to live in Huntsville anyway, closed out any of the accounts that she could here, and then in November of 1863, she said goodbye to the Steamboat House and went back to live with her mother in Independence. So what is the legacy of Sam Houston? It's something that historians have been battling with ever since he was alive. Nearly 200 years, or certainly, yes, over 200 years, I suppose. Sam Houston was a man who had a profound impact on Texas, on the country, on our political discourse, on who we are as Americans. There's a lot of lessons that we could heed from Sam Houston today. People who are rushing into decisions, who are overly partisan, who are listening to the more passionate and radical arguments instead of trying to find unity together. These are all things that Sam Houston would probably recognize in our discourse today. As a historian, this being my field, I run in circles with people who don't have the highest opinion of the general. They say that the way that he conducted himself in his early life, the way that he conducted the war for the Texas independence, that he gets too much credit for things, too much credit for annexation, too much credit for the victory at San Jacinto, that there were lots of mistakes made. I think General Houston would be the first to say that there were a lot of mistakes made, but depending on when you caught him, he would probably have a witty retort about that as well. Exactly who made what mistakes. In my mind, whatever he did, from the time he was born through the Texas Revolution, through his 2 terms as president of Texas, through his Senate career, whatever sins he committed, I think that what he did in 1860 and 61 and leading all the way into his death makes up for any of those sins. I think he left behind a legacy and something that I wish all of our statesmen and women could uphold in trying to find a way for us to talk to each other and recognizing the problems of his age and I don't know. I just think that he was a remarkable man, regardless of the things that he did in his past. The way that he ended his life um, was truly something that he should be most honored for. Whew. Well, that just about wraps up this episode of Chandler's Travels. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I'd like to thank the folks at the Sam Houston Memorial Museum and Republic of Texas Presidential Library for having me out to talk a little bit about the Steamboat House to you all. I look forward to coming back at some point and talking about some of the other structures that are here. If you have not visited here before, you really need to come. The staff here, everyone very good at what they do, and these homes are so important to Texas history. To walk in the footsteps of the general, that is something that is very important, very significant to all Texans and all freedom-loving people in the world, as William Travis might have said. So yeah, please come out to Huntsville and visit this museum. They're getting new artifacts all the time. They are coming up with new displays inside the museum. You can actually see the reproduction of Sam Houston's presidential office from his first presidential term, and quite the messy bachelor pad it was. So come on out and visit, see the amazing programs that they do here. And who knows, maybe at one of those programs you might see me, because I end up helping out whenever I can here. Here at the Bear Bin Cabin, I'm known to deal a mean hand of Pharaoh. So you can come and maybe even see me here if that's something that you're looking forward to doing. But once again, thank you for watching. Do all the things that you do when you like a YouTube video, like it, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend, talk about the channel. All that helps us in growing the audience and getting more people to follow along on my journeys. So once again, thank you for watching. Bye con Dios.